Hello class. Today, we are diving into chapter 2, which is about operation strategy in a global environment. Well, now I know some of you might be thinking, oh, strategy. Okay? Well, strategy sounds complicated. But do not worry because I will break this down in simple terms that you can easily understand and apply, especially to your company study. Okay? So let me start with a simple question. How many of you have eaten at Jollibee? Of course, I presume all of us, even me, I have eaten Jollibee. I have tasted Jollibee. How many of you has used iPhone? Okay, and how many of you have worn Nike shoes? Okay. Well, here's what's fascinating. That a Jollibee chicken might use spices from different countries, or your iPhone was assembled in China with parts from dozens of nations, or those Nike shoes were likely made in Vietnam or in Indonesia. So, this is actually globalization in action, and it is exactly what we're going to study today. So, in the next few minutes or an hour, we will discover why do companies go global? Okay? So, it's not just about because of making money. And then, what are the three ways any business can win? Whether you're Jollibee competing with McDonald's or a small sari-sari store competing with 7-Eleven. And then, how to make smart. So, it's either make versus buy decisions. Should you do it yourself or you should hire someone else? So, real strategies used by successful companies such as Boeing, Toyota, and yes, even our own Filipino companies. Okay? So by the end of today's class, you will understand how every business decision, from your future company strategy to even choosing where to buy your lunch, connects to these global operations principles. Okay? So let's go. Okay, so now let's talk about why do companies decide to go global. So as you can see on your screen right now, there are six main reasons. So I will explain each one with examples that you can easily understand. So the six reasons companies go international or global is number one, to improve their supply chain. So let's think of Jollibee making their fried chicken. So they might get their special spices from India because they're of better quality, or their packaging from China because it's more cost effective. It's like shopping at different markets to get the best ingredients for your favorite recipe. Okay? So the second reason is to reduce costs and exchange rate risks. So example for this, many clothing brands manufacture in Vietnam or Bangladesh because labor costs are much lower there, and it's like choosing to have your clothes tailored in Divisoria instead of Makati, which is of the same quality but much cheaper price. Okay? So the third one is improve operations. So companies learn from other countries' best practices. So Toyota's efficient manufacturing methods were so good that companies worldwide copied them. So it's like learning cooking techniques from different cultures in order to improve your own cooking skills. So the fourth reason is understand markets. So say for example, McDonald's in the Philippines serves rice, meals, and sweet style spaghetti because they studied what Filipinos like, right? So we Filipinos, we have sweet taste buds or sweeter taste buds compared to foreigners, okay? Compared to Japanese, to Chinese, to Americans, we have sweeter taste buds. So that's why Spaghetti is more saleable when it's sweeter. Okay? So by operating locally, they understand what customers really want. So they study the local market. Now, the fifth reason is to improve products. So when Samsung operates globally, they get ideas from different markets. So features that Japanese customers love might also appeal to Filipino users, making their phones better overall. And the last reason is to attract and retain um, global talent, sorry. So for example, Google hires the best software engineers from India, designers from the US, and marketing experts from different countries. So global companies having this kind of strategy, global companies can pick the best people from anywhere in the world. Okay? So the key point here is even if you think your business is purely local, chances are you're already part of a global supply chain without realizing it. Okay, so let us dive deeper into the first reason, improving the supply chain. Okay, so the basic idea is very simple. Companies locate their facilities where they can get the best resources. So whether that is skilled workers, raw materials, or cost advantages. So let's say, for example, why did Samsung choose Vietnam for electronics manufacturing? So because of three main reasons. The first one is because of cost-effective labor. So they found out that skilled workers at lower wages than Korea. The second reason, because of proximity to raw materials. So they are close to suppliers of electronic components. And the third reason is government support. In Vietnam, Vietnam offers incentives for tech manufacturing. So think of it like this, okay? If you were opening a restaurant, you would you would want to be near fresh ingredient suppliers, right? So have access to good cooks and get favorable rent. So that's exactly what Samsung did. Okay? Another one is the Volkswagen in Brazil. So this is a brilliant example of adapting to local resources. So Brazil grows lots of sugarcane. Okay? So perfect for making ethanol fuel. So Volkswagen created flexible fuel vehicles so that can run on ethanol, gasoline, or both. So the result is they tapped into Brazil's natural advantage while serving the local market's needs. Okay? So the lesson here is it's like choosing to open an ice cream shop near a dairy farm. So you go where the resources make the most sense. Okay? So a very good key takeaway for you in the future is for you as future operation managers, right? So you always have to ask, where can we get the best inputs for our operations? Okay, so that's how easy it goes. You always have to ask, where can we get the best inputs for our operations? So whether that's materials, labor, technology, or knowledge. Okay, so the second reason companies go international is to reduce costs and perfect themselves from currency fluctuations. So let me explain this in simple terms. So in simple analogy, imagine you are planning to buy something expensive next month, okay? But you are worried the price might go up. So that's similar to what companies face with currencies. So the peso dollar exchange rate changes daily. So let's say, for example, the Nestle Smart Strategy. Okay, so Nestle operates in over 180 countries and manufactures locally in multiple currencies. So here is why this is brilliant. If the peso weakens against the dollar, So Nestle Philippines can still sell locally without importing expensive products. So if the dollar strengthens, their US operations benefit while their European operations in euros provide balance. So the result, of course, is they are protected no matter which way currencies move. See? Nestle company is very brilliant. Now think of it like having multiple sources of income. So if one goes down, the others keep you stable. Okay, another example is the PepsiCo's raw material strategy. So PepsiCo sources ingredients from different regions in order to balance costs and minimize currency exposure. So say for example, sugar from Brazil. When Brazilian real is weak, okay? Corn syrup from the US when dollar is favorable. Spices from India when rupee is low. So the smart move, they can switch suppliers based on which currency gives them the best deal. Okay, always think of it. They can switch suppliers based on which currency gives them the best deal. So what's the lesson? Well, it's like shopping at different stores depending on who has the best sale companies or who has the best sale. So companies do the same thing globally to save money and reduce risks. Okay, so the third reason companies go international is in order to improve their operations by learning from different markets and implementing best practices globally. So the core idea here is when companies operate in different countries, they discover better ways of doing things. So it is like traveling. You pick up useful habits and ideas from different places that make your life better. So for example, let's talk about Starbucks because Starbucks is very I know you're very familiar with Starbucks, right? So in Starbucks, they learn local customer behaviors. Okay, so Starbucks adapts their store layouts and workflows based on what they learn in each market. So for example, in Japan, they learned that customers prefer smaller, cozier spaces for quiet individual time. Okay, so in Italy, they discovered the importance of quick standing espresso service. Now in the Philippines, in our country, they learned that Filipinos love socializing in groups. So they created more communal seating, right? So have you noticed that our Starbucks set up here in the Philippines? So we love to socialize, so observe what's their seating arrangement. So Starbucks really gave us the space for us to socialize. So the result for this is each new market teaches them something that improves operations worldwide. Now, another example. Let's talk about KFC, their kitchen operations evolution. So KFC modifies their kitchen operations based on local menu requirements because in Asia, KFC learned to efficiently prepare rice-based meals alongside fried chicken. However, in the Middle East, they adapted halal preparation processes. And another one in India, KFC developed vegetarian-friendly kitchen workflows. So, these operational improvements often get applied to other markets too. So, what's the key takeaway? It's like learning different cooking techniques from various cultures. Each method you learn makes you a better cook overall. Okay, so that's just a simple analogy in layman's term. So companies do the same with their operations. Okay, so the fourth reason companies go international is to truly understand what customers in different markets want. So you can't really know your customers until you live and operate among them, right? So it's very important to know your customers. How? So you have to live with them, you have to know them, you have to interact with them. Well, a simple analogy. It's like the difference between reading about Filipino food online versus actually living in the Philippines and eating with local families. So there's a difference, right? There's a difference. Operating locally gives you deep, real insights you can't get any other way. So for example, let's talk about KFC company. So in KFC, adopting to Asian taste preferences, KFC discovered through local operations that Asian customers have very different preferences. For example, in China, they offer rice bowls because Chinese customers want rice with their meals, not just bread. While in India, they created vegetarian options because many Indians don't eat meat. While in Southeast Asia, they made spicier variants because locals love bold, spicy flavors. So what's the key insight? They only learned these preferences by actually operating in these markets, not through market research from Kentucky. Okay? So they really have to live with it, be with the local people, and for them to totally understand the market. Okay? So let's talk about McDonald's. McDonald's deep local market understanding. So McDonald's developed market-specific items based on local food cultures. Let's say, for example, in India, they have this Mac Spicy Pioneering. Mac Spicy Paneer in India. So McDonald's learned that Indians love paneer, okay, and spicy food. Now in Japan, they have these teriyaki burgers. So they discovered Japanese customers prefer teriyaki flavors. How about in Netherlands? They have this McCrocket. They found that Dutch people love their traditional croquette snack. So the brilliant part here is these insights came from working directly with local customers, suppliers, and employees every day. So it is like learning a language. You can study it in books, right? You can study the languages in books, but you only truly understand it by living with native speakers. So companies learn markets the same way. Okay, so let's go with the fifth reason. So the fifth reason companies go international is to improve their products by learning from different markets and incorporating global innovations and technologies. Okay, so when companies operate globally, they get exposed to new ideas, technologies, and customer needs that will help them create better products. So it is like cooking. Okay? The more cuisines you're exposed to, the more creative and delicious your own cooking becomes. So let's say, for example, the Unilever, right? So climate adapted product reformulation in Unilever. So Unilever operates in over 190 countries with vastly different climates, and this taught them to improve their products. So let's say, for example, in tropical countries, Unilever learned to make ice cream that doesn't melt as quickly in extreme heat. Okay? However, it's different in cold climates. They develop formulations that stay creamy even when stored in freezing conditions. So, of course, the result of that is better ice cream technology that works everywhere. So let's talk about this Ben and Jerry's vegan innovation through global expansion. So when Ben and Jerry's expanded internationally, they discovered diverse dietary needs. So let's say, for example, number one, the traditional recipe. So they use dairy-based ingredients. Number two, global learning. They encountered large vegan and plant-based communities worldwide. Then for innovation, they developed vegan ice cream using almond, sunflower butter bases. Now, what's the benefit for their company? Well, this made their products accessible to vegans, people with lactose intolerance, and health-conscious consumers globally. Of course, what insight can we get here? By operating internationally, companies didn't just adopt their existing products, but they created entirely new and better product categories. Okay? So what lessons can you can you get from here, future operation managers? So the lessons is, it's like learning different problem-solving approaches from various cultures. So each new perspective makes you better at solving all kinds of problems, right? So companies improve their products the same way. Okay, so let's go to the sixth and final reason companies go international, because in order to attract and retain the best talent from around the world. So when you operate globally, you can hire the best people regardless of where they live, right? So it is like building the ultimate basketball team. Okay, let's talk about it. So instead of only choosing players from your hometown, you can pick the best players from anywhere in the world. So global companies do the same with their employees. Example, the Yum Brands, okay? Global talent for local innovation. So Yum Brands, these are the owners of KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell. So that's the group of Yum Brands. So they created regional innovation centers staffed with local talent to develop market-specific products. So the numbers of these Yum Brands are impressive. They have 40,000 plus restaurants worldwide, 120 plus countries of operation, and 1.5 plus million employees globally. So how do they use global talent? So local food scientists in Asia create products like KFC's rice bowls. Marketing experts in Latin America develop spicy menu variants. Operations specialists in Europe optimize delivery systems. And technology developers in India create mobile ordering apps. Okay? So the brilliant strategy is, instead of having American executives guess what customers in Thailand want, they hire talented Thai professionals to truly understand their local market. So, why do you think this works? Of course, number one, local expertise. Native employees understand their markets better, right? Cultural authenticity. So, products feel genuine and not foreign. Career opportunities. So, talented people join because they can work on global brands. That's really true. If you are a person who wants to travel or wants to go abroad or outside, you really wanted to grow in a company who also has company not just in the Philippines but also in other countries, so that you will have the chance to work in that country. Next is knowledge sharing. So great ideas from one country get adopted globally. So what's our key takeaway here, future operations managers? So well, it's like having local guides in every country that you visit. So of course, they know the best places, understand the culture, and help you avoid mistakes. So global companies hire these local guides as permanent team members. Okay? So now that we understand why companies go global, okay, so let's talk about how they ensure everything works together smoothly. So this is where missions and strategies become crucial. So think of a mission as your life purpose and strategy as your game plan. So for global companies, everything they do worldwide must support the same mission and follow the same strategy. So if your mission is to become a successful engineer, then whether you're studying in Manila, interning in Singapore, or working in Dubai, all your activities should support that same goal, right? Now, the key concept here is global alignment. So what does this mean? Operations and supply chains must align with the organization's overall mission and strategy across different countries and regions. So these matter because without alignment, you get chaos, different countries doing different things that don't support the company's main purpose, right? So it's very chaotic. So for example, how do you do that? Sustainability mission. So let's say, for example, this scenario is If a company's mission focuses on sustainability, its global operations must reflect this through environmentally responsible manufacturing and sourcing practices worldwide. Okay? So how does this work? Let's say, for example, manufacturing facilities in China must use eco-friendly processes because they support the sustainability. So it must be reflected in their operation. Okay? For the suppliers in Vietnam must meet environmental standards. Distribution centers in Europe must minimize carbon footprint. Okay? Retail stores in the Philippines must implement recycling programs. It's like saying that you can't claim to care about the environment while polluting in countries with weaker regulations. So your mission must be consistent everywhere. So whatever your company stands for, it must stand for the same thing everywhere in the world. Consistency builds trust, and trust builds successful global businesses. Okay, so now let's talk about this developing missions and strategies. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's go. Now, let's break down two fundamental concepts that every successful company must have clear. So that is mission and strategy. So, understanding mission and strategy. So, what is mission? Well, mission is simply the purpose of an organization's existence. Basically, why does this company exist? So that is mission. So think of your personal mission. Maybe it is to help improve people's lives through engineering solutions or to create beautiful designs that inspire others. So a company mission works the same way. Okay, so for example, let's talk about Jollibee. The mission of Jollibee is to serve great tasting food and bring happiness to Filipino families. For Google, their mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible. Now let's go to strategy. What is strategy? Well, strategy is how an organization expects to achieve its missions and goals. Basically, what will be your game plan? So, let's say for example, personally, if your mission is to become a successful engineer, your strategy might be you have to study hard, gain practical experience through internships, build professional networks, and specialize in engineering technologies. So the three ways to win in business, every successful company chooses one of these three strategies in order to achieve their mission. Okay, so what are these three? The first one is differentiation. It only means the company must be different or better. So make your product or service special and unique. Number two is cost leadership, meaning be cheaper. So you have to offer the lowest prices while maintaining accessible quality. And number three, response. For the response, you have to be faster and more flexible. So you have to be quick to respond to customer needs and market changes. So you cannot be everything to everyone. Okay, you have to take note of that. Successful companies pick one of these three and do it excellently rather than trying to be mediocre at all three. So just pick one, okay, and do your best at it. So next, we will dive deep into each of these three strategies with examples that you can relate to. Okay, so there you go. So now, let's see how these three competitive strategies work when companies operate globally. So each strategy requires different global approaches. So the first one, differentiation strategy in global operations. So the approach would be set up specialized manufacturing facilities in countries known in particular expertise or quality. So they go where the experts are. So for example, the Swiss watchmaking, luxury watch brands manufactured in Switzerland because of their reputation for precision. for Italian leather goods, fashion brands like Gucci manufacture leather products in Italy for superior craftsmanship. And another one, German automotive engineering, such as the BMW and Mercedes, leverage Germany's reputation for engineering excellence. Okay, so it is like learning guitar from the best guitarists in the world. Okay, or learning martial arts in Japan. So you go where the expertise is. So the second is cost leadership in global operations. So this approach, they locate operations in regions with lower labor costs or better access to raw materials. So the very best explanation for this is you have to find the most economical way to make quality products. Okay, so let's say, for example, electronics manufacturing in China. So lower labor costs while maintaining quality. So the key insight for this one is it's like you are buying the same quality rice from the province instead of expensive supermarket in Makati. So the third one is response strategy in global operations. So the approach here is companies position distribution centers strategically around the world in order to ensure quick delivery to different markets. So the to make it simple, the companies wants to be close to their customers so they can serve as much as faster as possible. So for example, the Amazon's global warehouses, products stored near major cities worldwide. So if receive an order, they can immediately deliver it fast to their customers. So what's the insight here? So it's like having sari-sari stores in every barangay instead of one big store in the city center. Okay? Okay, so let's have this KFC company as an example. Okay, so KFC is a perfect case study because they adapt their approach based on each country's unique conditions. Okay, so their focus is to deliver great tasting food and fostering customer satisfaction worldwide. Now, they keep the same mission everywhere, but change their strategy based in local decisions conditions, meaning they change the mission is the same, but their game plan varies in certain countries. Okay, so for the differentiation strategy, look in Japan, KFC differentiates through specialized quality control facilities that ensure consistent taste and food safety standards that meet strict Japanese regulations. Okay, because Japan is really into standard. Okay, Japanese people they really prioritize high quality products. Okay, so KFC adapts that. Now, special innovation. They created unique product development centers that create menu items specifically for Japanese consumer preferences. So, like their Tsukimi chicken sandwich. So, why does this work? It works because Japanese customers are extremely particular about quality and uniqueness. So, KFC focuses on being special and different. So, let's talk about the cost leadership strategy. So, in India, okay? So KFC achieves cost advantages by sourcing chicken locally from Indian suppliers and establishing relationships with local farmers. So their processing facilities are located in regions like Karnataka and Tamil Nadu where labor costs are competitive and there is good access to poultry farming. So the result is, of course, they can offer affordable prices while maintaining quality. So perfect for the price-sensitive Indian market. Now let's talk about their response strategy in China. So in China, KFC has positioned restaurants and their distribution centers strategically in both major cities and emerging markets. So their local supply chain network allows quick menu adaptations and efficient delivery of new products based on regional preferences and demand patterns. So the advantage for these is they can respond faster to changing Chinese tastes than competitors. Okay? So what insight can we get here in developing missions and visions of specifically this example of KFC? So one company, one mission, but three different strategies depending on what each market values the most. Okay, so this is smart global thinking. Okay, so here's a key insight that will really make you think like a global operations manager. So every major decision you make depends on what your company prioritizes most. So the three critical questions every global manager asks is when making decisions about where to locate facilities, which suppliers to work with, and how to manage logistics. So you must answer first, what is our company prioritizing? Okay, managers? And could be option 1, cost efficiency. So if that's the case, if your priority is low costs, then you'll make decisions like, for example, you have to locate your factories in countries with cheaper labor, or you choose suppliers based primarily on price, or use slower but cheaper shipping methods. Or could be your option is this option 2, product you want product uniqueness. So if your priority is being special or different from your competitors, then you'll make decisions such as locate in countries known for specific expertise. Choose suppliers who can provide unique materials or capabilities. Then you have to invest in premium logistics to maintain the product quality. Or could be your priority is market responsiveness. So if that's your priority, the speed and flexibility, then you will make decisions like you have to locate close to your customers for quick delivery. Choose suppliers who can adapt quickly to changes, or use fast, flexible logistics networks. So you can't always remember that you cannot optimize for everything at once. It is like choosing a restaurant. Okay, layman's term, choosing a restaurant. You cannot simultaneously pick the cheapest, most unique, and fastest option. You have to decide what matters most to you. Okay? So, understanding your company's mission and strategy is really fundamental because it guides every single operational decision you will make across different countries and markets. So the bottom line here is before you make effective global operations decisions, you must clearly understand what your company is trying to achieve. Okay? And everything else flows from that. Okay, so now let's talk about one of the most important decisions in global operations, and this is outsourcing. So outsourcing, this is something you'll definitely encounter in your careers, okay? So let's understand it clearly. What is really outsourcing? So in simple definition, instead of doing everything yourself, you hire other companies to do the same work for you, okay? Or to do some of the work for you. So how, let's say personally, instead of cooking every meal, you sometimes order from restaurants, okay? Instead of cutting your own hair, you go to a salon. Or instead of fixing your car, you go to a mechanic, okay? Now let's go, well, that's personal. Let's go to business. So Apple designs, for example, Apple designs phones in California, but actually hires factories in China to manufacture them. So why do companies actually outsource? There are three main benefits. The first one is to focus on core competencies. So do what you do best and let others do the rest. So let's say, for example, Apple focuses on design and innovation, but not in manufacturing. Okay? Reduce costs. Often cheaper to hire specialists than do it in-house. So for example, many US companies use Filipino call centers because of lower costs and English. Okay, so let's try to better understand how this outsourcing works, or if the company decided to outsource some of their works, how does it work? Okay, so let's take this for example, the by doing the rating provider selection criteria. Okay, so I'll read this for you. The problem: National Architects Incorporated, a San Francisco-based designer of high-rise office buildings, has decided to outsource its information technology function. So, three outsourcing providers are being actively considered. So, one in the US, one in India, and one in Israel. So, the approach will be: National's VP Operations, Susan Cholette, has made a list of 7 criteria she considers critical. Okay? After putting together a committee of 4 other VPs, she has rated each firm, boldface type, on a 1 to 5 scale, with 5 being highest, and has also placed an importance weight on each of the factors, as shown in table 2.3. Okay, so let's go to table 2.3. Okay, so this is table 2.3. Okay, this is the factor ratings applied to national architects' potential IT outsourcing providers. So as mentioned, the approach is Susan Cholette actually created these 7 criteria that she considered very critical, that what they're looking for. So let's see. The first factor is can reduce operating costs, can reduce capital investment. They factored in also skilled personnel, can improve quality, can gain access to technology not in company, can create additional capacity, aligns with policy, philosophy, culture. And then, so that's it, that's the factor. And then after that, she gave importance to each weight. So as you can see, so when you sum this up, okay, this is 0.6, 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, 0.1, 0.1. So when you always remember that when you sum it up, it is always equal to 1. Okay. So as you can see, can reduce operating costs. It has bigger weight. Also, the same weight with can reduce capital investment and skilled personnel. So it has given these 3 factors are given equal weight, and the rest can improve quality, can gain access. All of this has also equal weight of 0.1. Then what did they do? After that, with the help of the 4 VPs, because Susan selected a team of 4, they gave a factor of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. Okay, so let's say for example this, the outsource the provider from US, provider from India, and provider from telco. So they studied each one of them. Okay, so let's say US from 1 to 5 can reduce operating costs, so they just gave a rate of 3. Okay, for can reduce capital investment, they gave a rate of 4. Skilled personnel, as you can see, this providers from US is really skilled because they gave a highest rate of 5. Can improve quality, they have somehow okay quality because it's 4. Can gain access to technology, not in company. See, it has 5. Can create additional capacity, 4. And it aligns with philosophy, maybe not totally aligned because they only gave a rate of 2. Okay, so this is how you give rating. Okay, and then the same goes with India and in Israel. So after you have done that, after you have gave the rating, you have to multiply it to the given importance weight. Okay, so you do it per factor and per country. And then after multiplying, you sum it up, and each of the outsource providers will have the total weighted score. So as you can see, the one that the one or the winner or the one that will provide the service will be the US providers, okay? Because it showed that they have the highest total weighted score. Okay, so I really wanted to reiterate this one. Outsourcing is good, okay? Especially if you want to outsource something because it is not your expertise and you think that someone is better on doing that rather than you yourself or your company, or you do not have an employee that is expert in that, so it's a wise choice. However, always remember that there are risks of outsourcing, and there are 4 identified risks here. The first one is quality control issues, the loss of control over critical functions, dependence on suppliers, and potential creation of future competitors. So that's it. Okay, so that is the end of chapter 2. Kindly go back to the video presentation, and please always remember and understand by heart the reasons why do companies go global, and then what is mission and strategy, and then also the importance of outsourcing and the risks of outsourcing. Okay, so see you in class.